Okay, go down.
Stop
Okay,
resisting.
go down.
Stop resisting with your hands
Go
behind
down. Okay, go down.
Hey guys, wow. You're standing outside a slaughterhouse in East Texas. It's 4:37 a.m. The air smells like copper and wet sawdust. You hear boots, dozens of them, thudding through back exits, slapping pavement, vanishing into the pre-dawn fog. Workers, still in blood-smeared aprons, are sprinting into cornfields. Overhead, the hum of blacked-out SUVs circles like vultures. There's no warning, no lights, just a door kicked open and one sentence: everyone on the ground. ICE agents pour in, fully armored, holding printed quotas, 3,000 arrests a day, or else. They don't even check names until afterward. You probably won't survive this, or at least not without questioning what country you thought this was. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from, and let's go on the journey of today's story together. You reach into the shadows of a broken break room and see the brown paper lunch sacks that never got opened, apples, bologna sandwiches, a granola bar with a daughter's scribbled heart drawn on the wrapper. The machines still hum, the cows still cry, but 117 workers are gone. The meatpacking plant is one of dozens hit across rural states in the last 36 hours. No news crews were notified. The only hint was a single ICE bulletin posted at 2:13 a.m. on their internal portal. Region 6 clearance. 500 plus bodies projected. Not people, not immigrants, bodies, like cargo. ICE claimed afterward that no one was harmed. But you hear otherwise, that 3 people jumped into irrigation canals, that a young boy with asthma was left inside a locked car, waiting for his father who never came back. In a twisted bit of trivia, ICE's own field manual still uses color-coded success metrics: green for 90% arrest yield, red for under 50%. That night, they got 94% green, and they're just getting started. According to a recent ICE.gov update, the agency has quietly its operational surge units, which are expected to triple apprehensions over the next 90 days. You don't realize what's changed until you read between the bureaucratic lines. A memo dated May 17, 2025, quietly posted to the DHS Internal Archive, titled Operational Output Maximization Guidelines, doesn't use the word quota because that's illegal. Instead, it says daily enforcement benchmarks, setting expectations for each ICE field office. 3,000 arrests nationwide per day, minimum. It reads like sales targets. There's no legislation behind this, no public debate, just an administrative signature and a directive to optimize resource deployment. The wording is sterile, almost elegant, but the effect is chaos. The memo doesn't define who should be targeted, only how many. That vagueness gives agents sweeping discretion, and discretion, when combined with pressure, becomes something else: hunger, arrest hunger. Before this shift, ICE averaged about 1,100 arrests per day nationally. That number has nearly tripled in just 8 weeks. The reasoning? DHS cited intelligence trends suggesting a surge in unlawful presence but never released the data. Instead, they offered a graph with bars but no source. When NPR pressed them on it, the agency declined comment. And agents? Many of them didn't want this. A leaked group chat between ICE officers in the Midwest, verified by the Marshall Project, shows a thread of exhausted panic. They want us to fill numbers, not protect the country. One replies, it's not law enforcement anymore, it's production. Still, the vans roll out at dawn. The benchmarks become gospel. Field directors who fall behind are reassigned. Bonuses vanish. Promotions stall. One regional supervisor posted anonymously on Wired's security blog, it's coercive management. The ones they're targeting the hardest now? Legal residents, overstayed students, people with open asylum claims, anyone easy to grab. It's not that ICE's mandate has changed, it's that they've turned immigration enforcement into an industrial process. Names and faces replaced by units processed. The policy name, by the way, Operation Surge. Ramiro never made it back to the curb. You don't know that yet when the sun comes up and his daughter, Letty, is still standing in the school drop-off line, clutching the SpongeBob lunchbox he packed for her. Her teacher notices her pacing, asking, "Where's Daddy?" Ramiro was arrested just 20 feet from where he kissed her forehead and whispered, "Mija, be brave today." He was 39, a landscaper, a tax filer, a father of 3 U.S. citizen kids. His asylum hearing was scheduled for September 10th. It's July 3rd. What happened? He made a rolling stop at a blinking red light. That's it. ICE was trailing a different man in the area, someone with an open felony case. But under Operation Surge, you don't pass up a body. Ramiro matched a vague profile. They ran his plate, found his Honduran birthplace, saw his asylum case, and deemed it enough. One officer even called it an efficient interception. Ramiro's wife, Daniela, rushed to the elementary school as soon as she heard. But by then, ICE had already flown him 700 miles to a temporary holding site in Louisiana. No calls, no lawyer, just a sticker on a plastic bin holding his wallet and belt. Subject, non-priority, code G3. Here's what nobody talks about. Kids like Letty get flagged by school counselors. That means CPS opens a file. That means the state can declare a temporary lack of parental supervision. That means foster placement within 72 hours. So Daniela does what she has to. She pulls the kids from school. She hides. They live in their garage now, sleeping under a My Little Pony blanket, away from the front windows. On social media, the ICE field office in Dallas posted a photo that same morning. Another great day securing our communities. The background of the photo? A church parking lot. The man being walked to the van, Ramiro. When asked, ICE's spokesperson said, "We cannot comment on individual cases." But you can feel the silence where his voice used to be. You open the track database and stare. Row after row, tens of thousands of names. Or rather, numbers, docket entries. The actual people, invisible. What you do see? A startling number. 68.3% of all ICE arrests this past June involved individuals with no criminal record. Not violent offenders, not traffickers. Just undocumented presence, expired visas, or pending status cases. ICE's press office tells a different story. Their latest public bulletin reads, prioritizing threats to national security and public safety. The numbers say otherwise, and they're getting worse. In some states like California, the percentage of non-criminal apprehensions now exceeds 74%. Axios recently reported that local officials were caught off guard when ICE began showing up at probation offices, courthouses, even health clinics anywhere there were paper trails. Not warrants. Paper trails. Then there's the vanishing transparency. Under the Biden administration, ICE was required to report detailed monthly stats with full demographic breakdowns. That requirement disappeared in February 2025. Now agencies like TRAC and the ACLU are scraping data from immigration court filings just to stay informed. You also find something stranger. In ICE's internal newsletter, yes, they have one. Agents are congratulated for hitting clearance thresholds in unexpected categories. One entry from June, congrats to Region 4, 218 detentions, including 87 G1s. G1 refers to people with pending humanitarian parole. In plain English, people the U.S. has already agreed not to deport, usually domestic violence survivors or medical emergency cases. One arrest that went viral last week, a paraplegic man in Atlanta who had overstayed his visa by 4 months. ICE agents stormed his cousin's home with body cams off. Neighbors posted footage. It made CNN's immigration blog. ICE issued a one-line statement. The subject was processed in accordance with policy. Processed, not protected, not heard. And then there's the backlog. Immigration courts now face over 2.8 million active cases, according to Migration Policy Institute. At this pace, many arrestees will wait 3 to 5 years just for a hearing. Meanwhile, they sit in detention centers or vanish into countries they barely remember. You're sitting across from 2 people. One's a former ICE field director, and the other an immigration attorney. Same table, same coffee shop, polar opposites on what counts as justice. The ICE official, let's call him Bryant, leans forward and taps the table. You don't understand the math. If we don't hit our benchmarks, we lose funding. Congress doesn't care about nuance. They care about numbers. Show them 3,000 arrests a day, and they keep writing checks. His voice isn't cold, it's tired. But Maria, the immigration attorney, is already shaking her head. We don't use quotas to arrest rapists. We don't use quotas to detain corporate polluters. Why immigrants? She's representing 3 minors currently held in Arizona siblings, All under 10 after their parents were taken during a food truck inspection. Bryant shrugs. They're removable. That's the law. Maria cuts in. But the law has discretion. The Constitution demands due process. She pauses. ICE is turning that into a spreadsheet. This is the ethical heart of the story. One side argues it's about order, systems, resources. The other side sees people being scooped up like litter. Who's right? Some Americans believe enforcement must be strict to preserve borders. Others see the machinery of ICE not as protective, but predatory. The truth, it's uncomfortable. The agency was created in a post-9/11 panic. Its core doctrine, enforce first, assess later, was born of fear. And fear, when bureaucratized, becomes policy. On Reddit, one ICE whistleblower posted anonymously, "I didn't join to break up families, but they moved the goalposts. Now if I don't fill the van, I'm failing." You ask both Bryant and Maria the same question. Do quotas ever align with justice? Bryant pauses. Maybe, sometimes. Maria stares right at you. Never. Meanwhile, ICE's internal recruitment bulletin now markets a $6,000 bonus for new agents willing to deploy cross-regional, especially in Texas, Florida, and Ohio. The ad ends with, "You'll make a difference." A difference to whom? You walk into a town that doesn't make the headlines, Greenville, Mississippi. It's Tuesday, 2 weeks after an ICE sweep hit the Tyson poultry plant. Local leaders were told it was a routine compliance check. What happened instead was a full-scale raid. 147 workers taken in less than 4 hours. By Friday, the school district reported a 23% drop in attendance. Teachers said kids stopped showing up, not just the children of detainees, but others too, afraid their parents might be next. A pre-K class had only 4 students. The janitor hadn't returned either. Then the hospital started to fall behind. 3 certified nursing assistants were gone. 2 cafeteria workers didn't show. Nobody knew how to reach them. Down the road, the local bodega shuttered. Not because it was raided, but because half its customers were gone. The cash register stayed quiet. The ATM, empty. A social worker you meet there tells you about the surge in placement emergencies code for foster system intake. 12 kids taken in 4 days. We're not trained for this many at once, she says. And they don't just cry for their parents. They stop talking entirely. ICE's own records show no criminal charges filed against the Tyson plant owners, none. Just workers, gone, and no replacement labor. The chickens are still waiting. And you start seeing the pattern. One town over, the same thing happened last month at a fruit packing house. 94 people taken, 42 kids left behind. The state tried to bus in substitute workers. They lasted 1 shift. One man told the local news, "They worked too hard. I couldn't keep up." On Facebook, the local police chief posted, "This isn't law enforcement. This is demolition." ICE responded in a press statement, "We conduct operations with precision to uphold federal law." But when you walk the empty aisles of the grocery store, precision feels like a lie. There's no one left to shop. The silence isn't peace. It's absence. You drive out of Greenville at sunset. The roads stretch flat and quiet. You think about Ramiro, about Letty, about the towns where silence has replaced conversation. And then without warning, you're back where it started in the data. Quotas, benchmarks, performance metrics. These words don't belong to humanity. They belong to accounting. They belong to factories. And that's the sickness, isn't it? Somewhere along the line, we started treating immigration enforcement like supply chain management. The goal isn't justice, it's volume. You recall something odd you read an internal ICE PowerPoint slide leaked via FOIA request. One slide read, consistency through metrics. Another, maximize body count per operation cycle. Those aren't metaphors. That's the language of a machine. And here's the deepest cut. ICE doesn't deny it. When asked by the Marshall Project about enforcement targets, an anonymous ICE official said, "You can't manage what you can't measure." He wasn't being cruel. He was being honest. But what's the cost of that logic? You think about the officers, too, the ones who used to join ICE to stop traffickers or intercept weapons. Now they fill out spreadsheets and chase grocery clerks. You remember Bryant, the ICE field director, his tired face as he muttered, "Sometimes I just don't look at their eyes anymore." Not out of hatred, out of wariness. And then there's you, a citizen, a neighbor, a voter, someone who maybe never thought about ICE until it knocked on someone else's door. This isn't just about law, it's about what kind of story we tell ourselves. If our country's goal is to become efficient at removing people, what do we lose in the process? What do we forget? The philosopher Hannah Arendt once warned about the banality of evil, how ordinary men commit atrocities not out of hatred, but because they're just doing their job. You wonder how close we're drifting, because when numbers become the measure of success, humanity becomes the acceptable loss. You stare at the dashboard and realize something. We never even asked why 3,000. We only asked how. So now it's up to you, not ICE, not DHS, not the agents checking off names, you. Because what they're counting on isn't just quotas, it's your silence, your forgetfulness, your sense that this is someone else's fight. But what if it isn't? You've heard the stories, Ramiro, Daniela, Letty. You've seen the empty desks in classrooms, the flickering lights of a shuttered factory. You've felt the quiet collapse of a town undone by a single memo. You've also seen how little it takes to become a number, a wrong turn, an expired visa, a traffic light misjudged in the rain. And suddenly, you're not a neighbor or a parent or a friend. You're subject G3, eligible for expedited removal. That could be someone you know. That could be someone you love. If ICE can triple its arrest goals with no vote, no law, no oversight, then who's next? What other agency gets to assign worth by the thousands? Congress hasn't held a single hearing on Operation Surge. Not one. No panel, no testimony, no investigation into how these benchmarks are chosen or who disappears to meet them. But you can change that. Call your representative. Ask them where they stand. Share this video. Post it. Translate it. Forward it to someone who thinks quotas only happen in sales departments, not deportation vans. You'd be surprised what happens when the silence breaks. When communities speak, when people remember. Because if we don't count lives, someone else will turn them into metrics, and not the kind that ever come back. And now, slow your breath. Listen carefully. Wind carries the sound of a distant freight train, no horns, just the rhythm of steel and night. The sort of sound you never notice until it's already past you. That's how these policies work, quiet, mechanical, invisible, until they land on your front step. So stop. Remember the names. Remember the girl with the SpongeBob lunchbox. Remember the janitor who didn't clock in. Remember that 3,000 isn't a number. It's 3,000 separate lives. Today. Tomorrow, it resets. Don't let that be okay. You sit with the quiet now. Not the silence of apathy, but the silence that follows clarity. That moment when a truth settles in your chest, heavy but unmoving. You carry it with you into your day, into your next conversation, into how you see the world. The raids won't stop tomorrow, the quotas won't vanish overnight. But what can shift, what always shifts, is awareness. Knowing changes how you act. It sharpens how you listen, and slowly, it makes you braver. Maybe tonight you'll bring it up at dinner. Maybe tomorrow you'll read past the headlines. Maybe next week you'll write something small but pointed. That's how this works. Not in riots or slogans, but in remembering. You don't need to do everything. You just need to not look away. In the end, you realize the most radical act isn't outrage. It's noticing, looking a policy in the eye and saying, I see what you're doing, and I do not accept it. That's the work. And it begins right here, with a choice as simple as staying until the end. You did. Thank you for listening, for bearing witness, for refusing to let numbers erase names. If this story stayed with you, share it. Not for me, but for the ones still inside. The ones not yet counted, the ones they hope you forget. And before you go, take a deep breath. Let it out slow. You're not powerless. You're just waking up. That's more than they ever planned for.